We're giving you a good view this morning. We're so close that the mist from the water they're dumping on this fire is splashing us in the face. Take a look. You can see right now fire crews are fighting the flames of this warehouse at 39th and Park from in the air. We're also downtown this morning at Washington and Tucker at the Sprint store that sits on the corner here. Look at this. The windows already boarded up. But I want to point this out. We were traveling from downtown St. Louis, and check this out. This is ice on the side of our car here. This is because we were driving. The roads were wet and that rainwater just kicked back up and it froze. Well, good morning, Emily. It is day 10, the last day lawmakers have to get the state out of a downward spiral. Many people have called this a flat-out failure. Well, Corey, as you were tossing to me, I could feel the ground literally shaking, and that's because crews are right now working to clean up this mess. You see 64 right there. In fact, the protesters, they've moved from Market and Tucker where we were, and they were trying to get on 64 here and 40. Police, they got here quickly, and they blocked them off. Walk with me here so I can show you exactly what's left behind in this deadly double shooting. Take a look at this shattered glass. There's shattered glass there and about 4 different bullet holes. It was an unruly night. The action kicked off around 8 o'clock last night. Now we're seeing the aftermath this morning. Shattered glass and windows busted out. Here at the Nell Center, you can actually peer right through this Nell shop. Emily, it's unbelievable what we're seeing as we approach the 8 o'clock hour. You're taking a live look at a mobile home here flipped over.
How in the world did this happen?
Yeah, Marissa, when you hear it, it blows your mind. But when you see it, your jaw will probably drop. Gosh, this is a very scary one. We've all gone to the store to go shopping, and we typically grab a shopping cart. But one thing we don't expect to see or get cut by is a razor blade. Fire crews are still on scene. Also, the state fire marshal right now. This fire line is preventing us from actually getting any closer to the scene. There's actually a Camp Jackson Road fire truck actually pulling in. Here's what we know as you look at some of the video. We can't get any closer, but earlier our photographer Drew Mitchell was able to get a little bit closer for us. We do know that 2 people were trapped in this fire. Fire crews arrived on scene, and they told us one of the victims was near the door, so they were able to get that victim out. The other they had to search for. The good news is that these victims are alive at this point, but they did have to perform CPR on scene and then rush them to the hospital. But the fire chief on scene told us it doesn't look good for these 2 victims right now. But the good news is they are still alive. From the scene out here, looking at the house, you cannot tell that a fire was actually there inside of that home because the damage, according to the chief and our photographer out here, told us that it's mostly inside this building or inside the home. Fire crews again still on scene, waiting, I guess, until the fire marshal continues their investigation. We're live in Cahokia this morning. I'm Justin Andrews, News 4. Because IDOT and MoDOT were out all over the storm. Take a live look at 55 right now. You can see this is proof. Cars are going at normal speed limits this morning. It looks like actually the interstates are dry. I just checked the maps for MoDOT and IDOT. It says that the interstates are completely clear. Take a look. Overnight, we saw MoDOT all over the metro area laying down salt. Those are those plow trucks. They told us they had about 200 out in the area. We also checked with IDOT, and they also were ahead of this storm. But this is the problem this morning. You may run into a few issues on bridges, overpasses, and sidewalks because some of these areas can be a little slick. So if you're starting your morning commute this morning, be sure you take your time. We're live on the south side this morning. I'm Justin Andrews, News 4. We're not sure where these protesters are going, but it appears they could be going to the police department because this group of protesters have not been there just yet. Again, as Mark Griffin mentioned, the crowd is growing. It is much bigger than what it was when it originally started maybe an hour or so ago, right after this verdict came down. I've lost track of time a little bit trying to keep up with these protesters. But again, some people say this is chaos. Others say this is peaceful. Either way, we haven't seen anything when it comes to violence, though. Yeah, Corey, Dimitri is used to running track and jumping hurdles, but there's one hurdle taking him and his family a little longer to overcome.
Well, I can tell you this, it's been life-changing.
Mom doesn't understand, but will never forget. Her 18-year-old son, once a track athlete, now bedbound at St. Louis Children's Hospital.
And to have one is rare. To have 2 is extraordinarily rare.
Dr. David Limbrick is Dimitri's doctor. He says he's been recovering for months.
We identified the problem as being 2 independent arteriovenous malformations, or AVMs.
Dimitri had one AVM down in the spinal cord early last year, the other later discovered in his brain, basically bleeding in a critically important area that controls his facial movements, swallowing, and much more. Do you hope one day to get to running again? I mean, I know it may be hard, but is that something you still want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. With goggles around his eyes, Michi, as his family calls him, believes he'll be active again.
We don't know how fast he's going to recover, but I can tell you he's surprised us so far.
Not a day, hour, or second goes by without a family member by his side. With 13 other siblings, his medical bills are piling up.
I don't believe we've gotten this far without the love of them and the love of God on their side, because as we pray for Dimitri, we pray for them also, because we know it takes the hand of God to guide them.
See you later, Dimitri. Thanks for talking with me, okay?
You're welcome.
At St. Louis Children's Hospital, I'm Justin Andrews, News 4.